Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk About You. And on this episode of Let's Talk About You, I will be taking over for your host, Camela Francis, tonight, and I will be interviewing the wonderful teachers and sharing some information about our upcoming event. But before we get started, let's just take a pause to recognize Camilla Francis and thank her for the opportunity to host her show this evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I know that you definitely wanted to be live with us today, but we are happy to do this takeover show with Revitalized and as well as the wonderful teachers that are a part of our experience. So, everyone, thank you for watching. Welcome to the show. As I mentioned, my name is Cristal Legrand. I am the founder and CEO of Legrand Voyages. And today, I am excited to share with you an initiative that our company launched. We launched an initiative called Revitalized. It's a community funded travel incentive program for teachers. And so today's show is all about teachers. I have a wonderful teacher from Namibia here with me today, and I would love to share more details about what we're doing and what's happening with our collaboration, even in St. Thomas with the wonderful Camela Francis, and as well as other amazing ambassadors that we are collaborating with across the globe. So, I don't want to keep you waiting because I know we are a bit behind on time, but technical difficulties permitting. But thank you for streaming with us. Thank you for joining the show. And as we go through this conversation today, we'll be sharing so many nuggets around what this event is about, why we're hosting it, who we're hosting it for, and how we are executing this mission. So, before I get started, I do have a guest with me. And so I'd love to bring her on with me and that both of us can kind of share with you some of the heart behind this project and why we are doing this. So, my guest this evening is none other than teacher Cecilia out of Namibia. And so I invite you, Miss Cecilia, to join us on this conversation.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Cecilia. And so I'll take you through the journey of Revitalize just as Cecilia would have went through it as she was introduced to this event as well. So as I mentioned, our company wanted to host a travel incentive program for teachers, and we really wanted to emphasize the health and wellness of teachers. So we wanted to make sure that teachers were recognized and teachers were rewarded for their years of service. And this is where we met Miss Cecilia. Nominated by Miss Joanne Cleout of Gen Namibia, she was selected as amongst the wonderful teachers in Namibia as one of the recipients, or one of the first recipients then, of this travel incentive program. And so for a moment, I'll let Cecilia introduce herself. Tell us your name, where you're from, the school that you work at. Tell us more about you.
Christoph, thank you so much, Miss Crystal. I am Cecilia Kamati. I am from Namibia. I'm in Namibia currently, and I'm a teacher, a junior primary teacher. I'm a cross teacher for grade 1, and I teach at Nango Primary School, that's in Umsati region, Namibia, Elim Seket.
Yes, and thank you so much. And so, as a teacher, and as amongst all the teachers that were nominated across the globe, some of our criteria for the teachers were X amount of years of service, so 5+ years of service, and they needed to be available to travel with us for this pilot project in July. And fortunately, with the excitement, not only was Cecilia ready to get rocking with us and registered and everything else to be a part of this experience, she was also ready to share this experience with some of her other teachers. And I really was impressed even to hear how how much you appreciated it, but how much you also recognize that there was so much more teachers that can benefit from this experience. And so that speaks to your heart. It speaks to who you are, and your thoughts behind how you are as a person, your character. And so share with us some of the first thoughts that you had about this project, and as well as how you went about, like, what was the reason behind wanting to make sure that so many teachers from your region now are joining you on this experience.
Wow, great stuff. It was a great, actually, I was
So we're having some connections difficulties here with Miss Cecilia, but let me share a bit about what we're talking about here. So each teacher, once they are nominated, they were each receiving an all expense paid trip to Jamaica. So yes, I buried the lead on that one, and I wanted to share more about that, about our experience further on in the show. But yes, all the teachers will receive an all expense paid trip to Jamaica, and this is going to be backed by a crowdfunding campaign to make it possible. And so once our teachers heard about what they were receiving and everything else, we they opened it up and made it possible for additional teachers to join them. And how they're doing that is by sharing their space with someone else. When we crafted the design of the experience, we wanted to give each person an individual space. Then their accommodations would not necessarily have to be shared with anyone. But the teachers from Namibia band together and decided, well, they don't need necessarily an individual room. They wanted to make our experience available for more persons. And so this is some of the heart behind, them deciding to open it up to additional teachers to be able to experience this. So while we wait for our teacher to rejoin the live, and I think we have her back now.
I'm back. Here we go.
Yes.
Hmm.
Hi, welcome back. Don't worry. I shared a bit about how you came about sharing the experience with other teachers by sharing your own accommodations and making it open to more persons and everything else. So, yes, I shared that part as we waited for you to reconnect, but you can go ahead and share from your perspective some of your thoughts behind, how the teachers from Namibia received the information and wanted to make it accessible. So yes, you can take over.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just sorry, I just lost connection somehow. Okay,
It's okay.
actually, we were nominated by Miss Joanna Crude for Gen Namibia. Um, it was Miss Victoria. She's a teacher and the founder of Koha, a private school. It's actually a school for, she's dealing with autism, and actually a registered school for inclusive education. And then me, a teacher working for the government, and my other colleague who is also a teacher at Okahau Primary School. Then during our interview and saw that you gave us a privilege of selecting, at least nominating one or more teachers that can join us, it was then a great news that we have to go out there and think of one or two teachers that can yet join us on the trip so that we can have, or we can enjoy the trip together. It's always good to share, or you know to share with others good opportunities, especially these for teachers. So for me, I feel very honored. It's a pressure, it's a blessing that we have people out there that they are recognizing teachers as the best people, the best mentor, the best inspiring people in the world out there. We are under the root that we are the most important people in this world. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter you are a kindergarten teacher, what type of teacher, as long as you are a teacher, you are the most important person in this world. So I feel honored. I'm grateful.
Yes, and we are honored as well. Um, Speaking back to why we kind of started this project and why we wanted to emphasize on teachers is really stemming back to what you're saying. Teachers are crucial. Every person in this world was raised in some way, whether small or great, by a teacher, whether in a formal setting in a school or an informal setting. Each person was impacted by a teacher throughout their lifetimes. And even as adults, we're still impacted by teachers who are helping us to develop and grow. But unfortunately, for most cases, teachers aren't always the highest paid or the highest appreciated members of our community. And this is the heart behind this project. We want to be able to create a culture of honor for our teachers and make it so that persons in our community can join us and join this initiative to express their honor to the teachers. So, in light of knowing what teachers go through, in light of even the conversations that I've had thus far in developing this project, I want to share your story, your personal story as a teacher, because I think most of the time what happens is that we know in our minds of teachers, we have a thought about what teachers go through. We think we know what the classroom is like. And I think for most persons, not until COVID hit that they really realize how difficult or challenging it could be to raise their own kids in their own house, and then much less to have to raise 30 different teachers, 30, 20 to 30 different students in one classroom. And so I think post COVID, the appreciation for teachers elevated, but we haven't gotten to the place where it's elevated to the point where teachers are rewarded in the same measure that we appreciate them, quote unquote. So until we get to the point where we are physically expressing our gratitude for teachers, I think we still have room to grow. So this is what we're talking about here. So, in light of that, throughout this campaign that we're hosting, and I'll tell you more, I'll tell our audience more about the campaign and everything as we go along. But throughout our campaign, what we want to share is the personal stories of teachers who have been serving for years. And so, we're starting off with your story, Cecilia, and we're super proud to have you here with us. And so, tell us, when did you get started in your career, and how did you get started, and why did you want to even become a teacher? Because I know for some of us, me included, teaching was never in my thought process, was never a career path that I would have chosen. So I know that teachers have a heart for what they do. So what inspired you to become a teacher, and when did you start?
Okay, great stuff. Thank you so much. I remember ever since I was young, my dream is to become a teacher. Whenever I meet a teacher, I look at them like, wow, this is the most special person. So I remember I started this career when I was just very young. I was a very smart, I can say, during junior primary education. When even my teacher, when they are not around, they will allow me to stay in the class and represent them as a teacher. I say, Cecilia, I'm leaving or I'm going to the office. Now you teach others. And then from there, it really even boosts up my mind and my career that wow, this is what I want. And now when I grew up, that I am um, I had I can say I had a very tough um, situation where I
Upbringing?
was raised was a bit tough. That going to school sometimes was also not easy. It was not really easy for me to complete my study earlier. And then after I finished my secondary school, I did not perform well, and it was really bad that I have now. I was thinking I'm losing it. Well, will I really get to what I want? And then I decided to further my study, not to further my study, but to do NAMCOL to improve my subject until I get good results. And then after there, it was a bit tough that there was no fund for me to go to UNAM or to college. And then I decided to work as a volunteer at a private school in Shikuku called Ibaristus Ashipara Private School, whereby I was just working as a volunteer. And then I was recognized by the government for them to fund me to go further my study at University of Namibia through a program called INSET. And then from there, they fund my whole study for 4 years, and then I graduated, and then I gained a diploma in junior primary education. And then that was actually from 2017, but I started teaching in 2016. I graduated in 2021, and then from there, I became a qualified teacher. But I started teaching in 2016. So
Nice.
I love teaching kids that I studied for junior primary education. I love teaching kids and I enjoy them. And I think this is amazing phase for me to just groom them up and raise them up and make sure I give them the best development before they get ready for senior primary education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as I strongly believe teachers are born. And even hearing your story in how much tenacity you had in making sure that you got the right certification that you need to be able to serve our students is fantastic. The heart behind your desire to teach is evident. And so tell us one really memorable story that you have as a teacher. How and it could be from a student, it could be from your own learning experience. Just one really amazing story around your teaching, throughout your teaching career. Yeah.
Okay. I have analyzed when kids are with me, they look at them like their own mother, and they are always free to be surrounded by me. They are always free to tell me their stories and everything. Now, I remember in 2019, I was teaching at a school whereby it's actually in the remoteness area, whereby we have a lot of vulnerable children. So when I was now a teacher, I was currently teaching pre-primary. 70% of my learners were so vulnerable that sometimes when you really want to teach, they can't even concentrate, because sometimes they come to school maybe without eating and all that. It really became a challenge that I have to decide to share a portion of my salary with them, that I have to buy food every day coming to school, so that I have to give them breakfast earlier before we start classes. And then now in 2020, I have now to be transferred to another school that is more close to town. And it was really, really, really a challenge that I have to be called each and every day, that these kids are crying nonstop, thinking about me, maybe wishing I have to be there again to feed them and everything. And for me, I think it's one of the best part I did in my life, that half of my salary every day or every month have to go to these vulnerable children, so that I make sure when I'm teaching, everyone is concentrating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is such a true story, and it rings through for many teachers. I've heard several stories from teachers, even while developing this project and even prior to this, that they extend their own personal resources. I can remember our growing up, we had a fourth grade teacher, Miss Bell, and she was one of my favorite teachers, and she would always do challenges to her students to help encourage them to excel in class and things like that. And she would use her own funds to take us out to dinners and different activities, just to motivate us. And I always found that to be really interesting, where teachers would invest in the young people with their own products or with their own resources. And it goes to show how much dedication they have for their class. And it's amazing to see that whether you're from the Caribbean or from the US or from Europe or from the African nations, it all is the same. Teachers just have this heart for their kids. So not only are you their mother, sometimes you're their doctor and their counselor and their helpmate. And, you try to be all these roles so that you can get them to be the best that they can potentially be. And it speaks to so many things that are so many contributions then that teachers make in the life of our young people while unlimited resources themselves, so just thinking about that extra push and extra investment that teachers make is always warms my heart, and I'm really grateful for your service. And even as a global community, then I would love to express our collective gratitude for all that you've done already, and I'm sure that you will continue to do for years to come. I'm pretty sure that you're not even halfway through the amount of service that you would want to make for your community. So, in fact, let's talk about that. Um, as you have served for so many years in your community, what are some of the pain points that you see that teachers need to help them to effectively serve more efficiently? What are some of the things that the community should pay attention to, or the government should pay attention to, or individuals themselves, or parents? What are some of the pain points that you see teachers go through that you would want to encourage persons to support or assist or, find solutions for? Mhm.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I have to look at first. Most of teachers sometimes, okay, it depends from country to country, but now I'm talking now, sitting in my standing in my shoes. Sometimes teachers are going through a lot, or they are having challenges when it comes to teaching materials. Sometimes you want to explore more with your kids, but we have a lack of materials and also lack of motivation. You can do the best, you can do sometimes whatever, but motivation is not there. We need to be motivated. We need to feel recognized, like what is currently happening right now on the screen. What is currently what I'm actually waiting or facing the trip, a retreat for teachers. This is exactly what every teacher wants. We want to be recognized. We want to be motivated. We want to be appreciated. But also more looking at now at the best development or the best quality education of a child. We need quite enough teaching materials so that we make sure every child is mastered in many different ways, especially now to the junior primary phase. They learn in many different ways. But if you only have a chalkboard in your class, it's a challenge. You'd like to use a projector, would like to use some games, you'd like to use anything, but it's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually, you know, as you said, you can speak from your perspective, and yes, in some countries or nations, there might be more access to resources, but it has run through several countries around the world that resources are limited. And the pain point that I find for myself, even when I look in at it, is that it's not that the resources aren't available, they're just not allocated to education. So education in oftentimes seem like it's not a priority for the powers that be. So what we would love to happen is that through our conversations, through our campaigns, through these live broadcasts, through putting teachers on the forefront of the conversation, we can encourage people to look at this and look at the situations that the teachers are facing, and really find ways to support teachers even beyond the retreats and everything else. So our initiative has a very specific goal, and our goal is to revitalize the teacher, the human being. And as you said, you need motivation to be able to serve, because you can't serve from an empty cup. And that's really our emphasis and focus. So we have focused in on the human, the teacher who is in service of her community, and we're really pouring back into you as the individual. And so revitalize, that's the core of what we're doing. But while we're doing that, we're also putting a light on the situations in every particular school or in every particular country, to say, this is our expression of gratitude for our teachers. This is how we have chosen to express our gratitude. But within, and that's within the scope of our business, because travel is the business that we're in. So Legrand Voyage is a travel business. And so what serves, what how we can serve then our teachers is through this. That's how we can help our teachers. That's how we can serve our teachers. But then there are other organizations. So our hope is that as we start serving teachers, other organizations say, well, we can contribute and we can honor teachers through equipment, or we can honor teachers through books, and we can honor teachers through, because there's so many different expressions. So we're definitely not saying that our expression is the only expression, because there are other things that are necessary. But I strongly believe that charity begins at home, and it begins with the person. Because if a teacher is motivated and encouraged and built up enough, even if you have to teach under a tree, you can still serve. But the first thing is that you yourself, the human being, needs to be able to have the capacity and the energy and the motivation and the courage and the tenacity to be able to serve. So that's some of the heart behind why we chose to first focus on your mental health and your physical health of the teachers themselves. So our priority is that, but we definitely see the need across the board in several other areas. And so thank you for sharing that. And so, as we talk about, or as we lean into conversations about the mental and physical health of teachers, share with us some of those aspects. Because I know that as a community, we put a high demand on teachers to show up, be excellent, stay healthy, do all these things, be there, teach and deliver. And if you don't deliver to a certain capacity, then you're scolded and everything else. But how do you, or how has maybe even your group of teachers, how do you maintain your own mental, physical, emotional health currently? How, and that could be your experience or experience that you've seen with another teacher. How do you see teachers handling the environments that they're in currently?
I don't know if I'm getting your question that well. Maybe you can elaborate it better.
Yeah, sure. So currently, how do you maintain a good mental health for yourself? How do you care for yourself? How do you maintain your own personal health and wellness currently?
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, myself, or also looking at other teachers, especially colleagues,
Mhm.
I have observed we usually have sometimes a lot of working hours, but we also respect our health, mental and physical. We also do exercise. Like for me, I prefer knocking off and go out there and do exercise, take myself for spa, my own treatment, and just to make sure I fit for the next work of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm patient to a limit. Um, so I'm always curious about how teachers maintain all these wonderful characters in the classroom without, screaming and yelling and maybe even,
Yeah.
taking out vengeance against these wonderful young people that you are nurturing. Um, Even in that space, are there things that, or have you, in fact, let's talk about that. Have you ever experienced, because we've read reports where there are several teachers experiencing burnout, they don't want to teach anymore. Have you ever been in a place where you've gotten to the point where this has become too much, or you've seen maybe a colleague go through burnout and stress to the point that they can't maintain their career path anymore?
Um, at my stage, not yet. What I have observed a lot of people, a lot of teachers that join the industry for teaching are people that has got heart, or they got teaching at heart. Especially now, looking at my face for children, I love children. I love being crossed by, surrounded by children, and I love to teach. Children are angels. No matter, sometimes you can shout a bit when they do when they do any mistake or so, but within a second they have already forgiven you. So this is an amazing phase, especially now talking on my career junior primary phase. But I believe even other teachers that are teaching secondary school or others, they are really enjoying teaching. Is one of the amazing career.
Yeah,
You teach and you also learn every day. You know, you as a teacher can also learn from your kids or from your learners, and you learn every time. And the best part about it is you are not only a teacher at school, you are a teacher everywhere. You can teach everywhere that you go. You can correct anyone that is doing a mistake out there. You can mentor, you can deal with people in a very psychological manner. So I
yeah,
think a lot of people that are in this industry, they do not even want to think further. They
right.
do not know. It's
Yeah.
one of the amazing. It's one of the amazing career, in fact, to say. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Absolutely. I've definitely seen most of the teachers that I personally know have lived their entire lifetimes as teachers. They've never left the career. The only studies, and this is internationally, that we've read where there was, mass departures or mass teachers, especially after the COVID pandemic, wanting to leave the profession just because of the
Mm.
stresses and things like that. But I'm very happy to hear that you have committed to this journey and you're still serving as a teacher and will continue to serve as a teacher. So I want to thank you for, joining us here today and sharing your story and talking about this initiative. As we mentioned, there are several teachers that are joining us on the Revitalized Getaway that is happening this year. And I'll share before we close out the details of the event itself and where we're going and the dates. I'll share with the community here looking. But I thank you so much for your service and thank you for joining the show with me today. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for continuing to serve. And we hope that through our collaboration, we can continue to impact the teachers not only in Namibia, but also the teachers around the globe. So, any last words before we close out? Just tell me if you have anything you'd like to share or greetings that you would like to share. You can as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I really don't have much to say. Just anyone out there who is watching me right now, especially teachers, you are the mentors, you are the future, you are the best. So do not give up in the river. Do not give up in educate a Namibian child or any African child or any country out there. So let's keep pushing and let's inspire. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for those motivational words. Let's continue to serve our young people. And so, just to share with you, thank you so much, Cecilia, for joining me. Um, So, just to share with our listening audience, as you can see, we had the wonderful Cecilia with us. She is from Namibia. She will be joined by several other teachers who are coming to this trip from Namibia. And we have several other organizations and teachers joining us as well. So, I'd like to take this opportunity now to share with you a little bit more about our project and what we're all talking about here. So, you've heard us mention on several occasions now throughout the show about Revitalized and as well about, teachers and honor and everything else. So, let's track back and tell you a bit more about this project. So, Revitalize, as I mentioned in the beginning, is a community funded travel incentive program that is built to reward teachers with an all expense paid travel package that will bring them together in Jamaica on the 15th to the 20th of July 2023. This is a pilot project, so we have only selected 30 teachers to be with us on this first inaugural event. So, 30 teachers from within our networks have already been nominated, and you will be hearing which teachers were nominated and where they'll be going and where they'll be staying and what the experience is going to look like for these teachers through our website. We are also having a series of interviews with each teacher, like we did tonight with Cecilia. We will have the introductions of our teachers. You will hear their amazing stories of how they have served their communities, how they have impacted their youth within their schools. And you will also get to hear from the wonderful collaborators that have joined forces with me and made this possible for their countries. Tonight, I want to give a special shout out then to Miss Joanne Cloet from Namibia and Jen Namibia. Thank you so much for helping me to identify the wonderful teachers from Namibia. And throughout this series, I will be recognizing the other ambassadors who also work with us in the Bahamas, in St. Thomas, in St. Croix, in Suriname, and all kinds of Caribbean islands across the US and across the African nations. And so you will hear more about this project every single day. We will have new information coming out, new announcements, and everything. So I encourage you to follow us. And so I will put here that you can see our website is www.revitalizedstar.com. And so it's Revitalize. It's a salutary teachers appreciation retreat, so STAR. So revitalize our stars. Help us to revitalize our teachers, help us to revitalize the ones who help us to raise our next generation. In honor of these teachers, we are launching, or we have already launched, our crowdfunding campaign. So if you go to our website, you will also see a link for donations on the top right hand corner of the website. You can send in any amount of donation starting from $5 and anything above that. This fund will go directly to making sure that the 30 teachers that were nominated in 2023 get to join us for this experience. The experience, as we mentioned in our conversation earlier, is focused on the human. So we will not be educating on how to teach better in the classroom. We won't be sharing information on how they can become better teachers. These are excellent STAR teachers already. What we will be doing is focusing on the teacher. We'll be focusing on how he or she takes care of her body, how they take care of their mind, and how they cope themselves within the classroom. These are our focuses as we bring them in to our country, to Jamaica on this getaway. Of course, alongside these wonderful workshops that we'll be having, we will also have some exciting excursions, and as well, we will culminate the entire experience with a award ceremony. And we will be highlighting their impact and their contributions, and we will give them a token of appreciation as the 2023 teachers that were nominated for the 2023 Revitalized teachers that were nominated. And so this inaugural event is something that is near and dear to me. As a company, we have focused on creating events and creating retreats and different activities and training programs for other organizations. But this year, we chose to create an event that is community based, it gives back, and it ties into our strong belief that education, and the youth should be on the forefront of all our focuses. And so I hope that you join forces with us. There are many ways that you can get involved. So go to our website. As I mentioned, it's www.revitalizedstar.com, and you can learn more about how you can get involved, how you can contribute, and you'll read the stories of these amazing teachers as we announce them one by one. Thank you so much for joining us today and watching us live, or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for your contributions. And a special warm thank you to Camela Francis for allowing us to take over. Let's talk about you tonight and be able to host this conversation and be able to have this wonderful interview with our teacher. We look forward to collaborating even more with Let's Talk About You as we announce more teachers in the weeks to come. So you might see us again, but that's just my internal plug to Miss Francis. And thank you so much for trusting us to trusting your audience to us. And so to the audience of Let's Talk About You, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening to our story. And we look forward to working with you. I am Cristal Legrand and I'm signing off. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. And this was Let's Talk About You. Good night.